Greetings and salutations, grade 10s. We are carrying on with quadratic equations, and we're going to be using another method today called the quadratic formula, something that you're going to use a lot of. And helping us in the studio today, we have three of your colleagues who've come in specially. First of all, we have Anza. Welcome, Anza. And then we'll go with the French version of the name, Amélie. Amélie, welcome Amélie. Anza, Amélie. And last, a unique person because they also serve as a pencil box. So welcome to Ariana, Amélie, Ariana, and Anza. That was Italian, it should have been French. Anza, Amélie, Ariana. Okay, but thank you for coming in. And let's get cracking. You should have the worksheet for session 13. Okay, as I say, if you don't have a printer, just save it for later and print it when you get back to school and just get the examples down. Right, so if we share this, ka-ching, and that's where we are. All right, so first of all, what is a quadratic formula? And the quadratic formula says this, okay, that if you have a quadratic equation, and any quadratic equation can be written in that form on condition that a is not equal to naught, and we're working, remember a, b, and c. So when we talk about a, b, and c, a represents a coefficient of x squared, b represents a coefficient of x, and c represents the constant term, anything without an x in it. A can't be equal to naught, okay, because then it's not a quadratic, it's linear, okay, and we're working with the coefficients being real, okay. Then we can prove, and the proof comes from something called the proof comes from a process called completing the square, okay, which you'll do in core next year, okay, so it wasn't just sucked out of somebody's thumb, okay, there's a very neat little proof for it that proves that if you're given an equation like this in that format, then the roots or the answers, okay, can always be found by plugging in, okay, a, b, and c, that's what we mean by a, b, and c, into this formula. X is equal to negative b, in other words, negative the coefficient of x. Negative just means the opposite sign of whatever the original b is, plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, okay, where b is the coefficient of x, a is the coefficient of x squared, and c is the constant term, all over, the whole thing over, 2a. The good news is this will always be given on your information sheet. Okay, so you don't have to learn it by heart, although it kind of should be stuck in your head. Right, so it's a pretty useful formula. Okay, first thing I want to show to you though is that it produces the same answers, okay, as you'd get if you were able to factorize a quadratic. So for the first question, okay, we asked to solve for x by factorization, and normally we're not going to specify a method. Okay, you're going to have to choose whatever's quickest and whatever is easiest. Right. So in this case over here, okay, well, I would always try factorization first. Okay, it is the quickest method. Okay, so that's what I would always do. And if you did that, well, here they specified. So you're going to have x squared minus 5x, okay, minus 14 is equal to 0. Can you factorize that answer? Yes, indeed you can. You're going to get x minus 7, x plus 2. Now, I don't care who you are, what do you have to do after you factorize? What does factorizing mean? Rewrite it as something times something. You've got to times it back out and check you get the same answer. You should always mark it yourself. X squared plus 2x minus 7x minus 5x. Okay, so that's right, that's right. Minus 7 times 2 is minus 14. You give yourself a mark, give yourself a smiley face. Right. So two things times together give you 0. It means x minus 7 must be 0, or x plus 2 is 0. You know, you can leave that line out, but I often write it in just to explain because that principle is so important. So I get x is equal to 7, or x is equal to negative 2. Okay. Just by the way, some language we're going to start introducing to you. A fancy word for roots, for answers, are roots. Okay, so your answers here, what kind of answers do you get? Okay, your answers are going to be, well, what type of numbers are they? Those are rational numbers. They're integers, but we're just really worried about them being rational. Okay, they're also therefore real. Don't worry about this yet. It's just an introduction of language. The roots are rational, real, and because you get two different answers, we say that they're unequal. But for now, the key thing is really, okay, what does the word roots mean? You must get comfortable in your head that roots is a solution to an equation. Okay, in terms of graphs, they're the x-intercepts of a parabola. And later you'll see that this graph over here would be a parabola, and the x-intercepts would be at -2 and at 7. But don't stress about that for now, but bear that in mind. Whenever you're finding the roots of a quadratic, you're finding the coordinates, okay, of the x-intercepts. Okay, when y is 0, x is 7, and y is 0, x is -2. Those x-intercepts are also called the roots of the function, okay, which means the same thing as the answers. Okay, your answers and your roots, it's just that, or solutions is different words. So I want you to start being comfortable with when you see the word roots, it means answers, right? Okay, but just to show you, you'd get the same answer if you found the roots of that equation, okay, or you solve for x using the quadratic formula. Okay, what's the formula again? Formula is x is equal to -b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. But to use that equation, you've got to get the quadratic in standard form, which means that you've got to get everything to one side of the equation, and you've got to get the whole thing equal to 0. So the first step we've got to do, okay, is move the 14 to the other side. So I get x squared minus 5x minus 14 is equal to 0. Now go write down the values of a, b, and c. Well, what is a? A is a coefficient of x squared, and the coefficient of x squared is 1. So a is equal to 1. What is b? B is the coefficient of x, and the coefficient of x is -5. So b is equal to -5. Okay, and what is c? Okay, c is equal to the constant term, and the constant term here, everything without an x, c is equal to -14. So get everything to one side, get it in standard form, just like you did when you're solving them. Okay, a coefficient of x squared, b coefficient of x, c is equal to the constant term. That's the standard formula, right? In which case, we plug it into here, and we're going to get x is equal to -b. So it's going to be -5, -5 plus minus the square root of b squared, which is -5 squared, minus 4. A is equal to 1, and c is equal to -14. Okay, so you're going to get -5 plus -5 squared minus 4 times a times -4 times -14. The whole thing, okay, not just the square root, the whole thing is over 2 times a, in other words, 2 times 1. Okay, so I've just replaced, every time I've seen a b, okay, I've replaced the b with -5. Okay, and every time I've seen an a, I've replaced the a with 1. Okay, and every time I've seen a constant term, which is only once in the formula, I've replaced it with -14. Right. So you're going to end up with x is equal to, well, minus times a minus is a plus. So you're going to get 5 plus minus. Okay, here, you use your calculator if you want to work out this whole bit underneath the square root. And you're going to get 25, if I'm just going to do it on the side of my page, -4 times -14, a minus and a minus. Remember, that's -4 times -14 is going to be plus 10, 4, 40, 56, eh? Okay. Something from there. No, it's right. Okay. So you're going to have 25 plus 56, and 25 plus 56 is 81. So that whole thing over here, as I say, you can shove it into your calculator. You're going to get 81. all over 2 times a, and 2 times 1 is 2. So we've got two answers here. Okay, you're going to end up with x is equal to 5. Okay, the square root of 81 is 9. So you get 5 plus 9 over 2. Or the plus minus means plus or minus. Or x is going to be equal to 5 minus 9 over 2. Sorry, I didn't leave you enough space here. Okay, so I end up with 5 plus 9 is 14. 14 divided by 2 is 7. So you get x is equal to 7. Or x is equal to minus 4 divided by 2 is minus 2. So we get solutions of 7 and minus 2, which is the same as that. 7, sorry, I've been writing without doing anything, which is the same as that. 7 and minus 2, we got that by factorizing. However, using the quadratic formula, okay, we also get 7 and minus 2, the same answers. So just to show you that it produces the same answers. Okay, but you can see for simple factorization, like we've been doing in this sum, the factorizing on the previous page wasn't that difficult. As you can see, it's much quicker than using the formula. Okay, so you say, but why the hell do we have something like this? Well, first of all, okay, even in expressions which can be factorized, as you well know from core, sometimes factorizing is a bit of a nightmare. Okay, so if you gave me something like this and told me to factorize it, okay, I would say, whatever, I know the techniques and things, but it's just a pain in the butt. Okay, so, right, where were we? Okay. So, Amelie, okay, you're welcome to go and factorize this. Good luck with that. While you're factorizing it, I'm going to show you how you could use the quadratic formula. So for this one, I wouldn't even bother with factorizing. You're welcome to try. Amelie's giving it a go, but I'm going to use the formula. And I'm going to say A is equal to what? 35. It's in standard form already. B is the coefficient of x, which is negative 58. And C is the constant term, which is 24. So you've got A is equal to 35. A is 35. B is equal to negative 58. And the constant term C is 24. Okay, just reading it off the equation, I've got it equal to 0. I don't have to change anything. Right. So now you're going to need a calculator over here. You're going to put it into the formula and you're going to say, right, I know that x is equal to negative b. Okay, if we look up there, so it's going to be negative 58 plus minus the square root of b squared is negative 58 squared, okay, minus 4 times a is 35, okay, times c, which is equal to 24. The whole thing's over 2 times a, which is 2 times 35. So I've just plugged in my numbers. Okay, a was over there. Here's your b, negative 58, and your c is 24. Right, so now I've used my calculator to work out what's under the third. So I'm going to get x is equal to 58 plus minus. Right, so if we get our calculator, okay, which I've got to get over here, okay, and you're going to get minus 58 squared minus 4 times 35 times 24. 158 minus 4 times 35 times 24. And I get 4. Okay. So I get 58 plus minus 4, okay, over 70. So you get x is equal to, okay, 58 plus, because we know the plus option and the minus option. So if I go with the plus, the square root of 4 is 2 over 70. Or x is going to be, if I go with the minus option, 58 minus 2 over 70. So here I'm going to get 60 over 70, which simplifies to 6 over 7. Okay, and here I'm going to get, or x is equal to 58 minus 2, which is 56. And 56 divided by 70 simplifies to 4 over 5. So I get x is equal to 6 over 7, or x is equal to 4 over 5. Right, that's the solution to that whole equation over there. Now I made a little note here that if your roots are rational, so these are rational roots. Remember, irrational is under a square root sign. So your roots are rational. So here, my roots, what's a root? Roots is a fancy word for answers. What are the nature of the roots? They're rational. Nature of roots means what type of answers are you going to get? We're going to do a section of this later. You get rational roots. They're also real, by the way. All rational numbers are real. And the answers are different. So what we say is are unequal. Just introducing you to some language. Now, just one thing. If a quadratic equation or any equation has rational roots, okay, it means that the original function can be factorized. So if you don't get a third in that answer, it means you could have factorized it to solve it. So to show you, if I work backwards and cheat, okay, if you had just this little trick that you can use, you should, if x is 6 over 7 or x is equal to 4 over 5, it means that 7x is equal to 6, or times by 5, 5x is equal to 4, which means 7x minus 6 is 0, or 5x minus 4 is 0, and if one of them is 0, it means that if you times them together, you'd get an answer of 0. So 7x minus 6 times 5x minus 4 is equal to 0. If you times that back out, you get 35x squared, okay, minus 28x minus 30x, just using FOIL, plus 24 is 0. So you get 35x squared minus 58x plus 24. Okay, in other words, okay, we end up back at this equation over here, right? So in other words, you could have solved this by factorizing. It would have, if you're very good at factorizing and you remember all those fancy techniques. 35x squared minus 58x plus 24 would be factorized to 7x minus 6, 5x minus 4. That would be the factorizing. And whenever you get roots, whenever you get answers which don't have surds in, it means you could have factorized it because they're going to be rational roots. Okay. But I think in a case like this, okay, and hopefully, Amelie, you agreed with me, okay, that it was quicker doing this than factorizing. Okay. All right. Next one. Okay. So, Ariane. So first of all, sometimes it's nicer to use, we said that in a case like the previous one, even though they had rational roots, okay, using the quadratic formula was quicker, but there are some cases, because you do get quadratics, obviously lots of quadratics, some quadratics have irrational roots. In other words, what does that mean? They end up with a third in the answer. One of the answers or both of the answers is a third, right? Okay, in fact, both of the answers would be a third. So then we say that if you get a square root of something that's not a nice number, that doesn't give you a nice rational number, then we say the roots are irrational. In other words, the x-intercepts are irrational if we did a graph. And as soon as you get irrational roots, it means they can't be factorized in the factorizing techniques that you guys use. So let's have a look at one. So if you're given x squared minus 2x minus 11, okay, you can go try and factorize that if you like. Good luck with that. Okay, it can't factorize. It can't be factorized, and then you've got no choice at this stage of your life. You're going to just go use the quadratic formula. Okay, and what does the quadratic formula say again? You should be able to start remembering it. X is equal to negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Right, so in this case, what is a? A is equal to 1. That's a coefficient of x squared. What is b? B is equal to negative 2. And what is c? C is equal to negative 11. Right. So if I plug those numbers in, I'm going to get x is equal to, be careful of careless errors. That's your biggest mistake here generally. Minus b, which is minus 2. Okay, that's minus b. Plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is minus 2 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is minus 11, all over 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. Okay, right, so I end up with x is equal to 2 plus minus the square root of well, this is going to be 4. I'm going to end up with 4. Be careful, that minus 4 times 1 is minus 4. Okay, so you get 4 plus minus 4, okay, times minus 11. Okay, so or you can just do it in your calculator. So you get minus 4 times minus 11, which is plus 44. So you end up with 4 plus 44, which is going to be 48. So you get 2 plus minus root 48 all over 2. Okay, and if they said you solve for x and leave it in simplest third form, what does that mean? It means x is equal to 2 plus root 48 over 2, or x is equal to 2 minus root 48 over 2. Okay, so you get x is 2 plus root 48 over 2, x is equal to 2 minus root 48 over 2. If they said you leave it in simplest third form, okay, well, on a calculator you could just do that, and you could go, right, this answer here is 2 plus square root, you could do it without a calculator pretty easy, plus 48 over 2. Okay, so just pop that into your calculator. That root over there would become 2 plus root 48 over 2 equals 2, and you get x is equal to 1 plus 2 root 3. Okay, x is equal to 1 plus 2 root 3. I'll do a brief explanation now of how you do that without a calculator, but unless they specify do it without a calculator, you use your calculator, and then the other answer will be exactly the same, but with a minus sign. So all you get x is equal to 1 minus 2 root 3. If they don't specify the format that they want the answer in, you're always going to leave it in simplest third form. Sometimes, however, you will be asked to give your answer correct to 2 decimal digits. Or what you'll do is you'll simply take your 1 plus 2 root 3 and press SD, and you get 4,46. So x is equal to 4,46. Or, and if you go back and you go 1 minus 2 root 3, and you get, or x is equal to negative 2,46. Okay, those would be your solutions to 2 decimal digits. But if they said to you, what type of answers do you get? What type of, what's the fancy word for answers? Not a fancy word, another word for answers, the roots. What's the nature, what type of roots do you get? In other words, what the nature of the roots are. Okay, well, first of all, because you've got a third in there, they're going to be irrational. But all irrational numbers are also real, and the answers are different, so they're unequal. Just introducing you to this, don't panic about this yet. That is the nature of the roots. Nature of the roots means what type of answers you're getting. The answers, if you describe the answers, they're irrational numbers, but they're also real, and they are unequal. Okay, right. I'm not going to go through doing that without a calculator yet. It's fine if you're happy with that for now. Right. And then lastly, it says, no, 2 more pages. It says, and sometimes, okay, so we used the quadratic formula when factorizing is really difficult. When even you get rational, sometimes you get irrational numbers in which you have to use this stage of your life, you have to use the quadratic formula. And sometimes you're going to get non-real or imaginary, that should rather be imaginary, okay, roots, okay, because, and another solutions, in other words, roots or x-intercepts. I mean, whenever you're solving, okay, you're finding the roots, you find the x-intercepts of the graph, you find the solutions, okay. And sometimes you're going to get imaginary answers. And how are you going to recognize when you get imaginary answers? Well, if you use the quadratic formula, okay, what's going to happen when you have imaginary roots or non-real roots is you're going to end up with a negative under the square root sign. Because as you know by now, the square root of negative numbers are non-real or imaginary. So in AP, if it says solve in terms of C, you're going to carry on. But in core, once you get the square root of a negative number, you're going to say that there are no solutions. Right. So the first example, if I said to you solve for x in the set of complex numbers, okay, and you had 2x squared plus x plus 9, okay, you can go check that's not going to factorize. Okay, so what do we do? Well, A is, we're going to use a quadratic formula. A is 2, B is equal to 1, C is equal to 9. Okay, so if you go plug this in, you're going to use the formula x is equal to minus b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. all over 2a. So therefore, x is going to be equal to, well, negative b is going to be negative 1 plus minus the square root of b squared, which is 1 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 2, okay, and c is 9. Okay, so minus b plus minus b squared minus 4a, c2, just be careful of careless mistakes, very easy to make them, over 2 times 2. So you end up with x is going to be equal to negative 1 plus minus. Well, if you go work this out, you get 1 minus 4 times 2 is, I'll do this, is 8. 8 times 9 is 72. So you're going to get 1 minus 72, and 1 minus 72 is negative 71. Okay, all over 4. So what does it mean? Well, you can check if you want to. Okay, if you went and did the square root of negative 71, okay, if you know in complex mode, you're going to get an error, but we know, so in core, at this stage, you'd say, once you see that that's a negative, once you've got a negative under your third, in core, you'd say, therefore, no solution. In other words, what we've got is non-real answers. What's the fancy name for answers? We say that the roots are non-real. Okay. In a graph, there'd be no x-intercepts of the parabola. Okay, so there in core, you'd say, right, we've got non-real roots, and you'd stop once you get to a negative under a third. But in AP, you'd carry on because they specified solve for x in the complex numbers. So x is going to be equal to, well, I don't think you can simplify root 71. It's in simplest third form already. You can check by going root 71 and it stays root 71. But you've got root 7. Remember, you've got this x is equal to negative 1 plus minus. What this means is the square root of 71 times by the square root of negative 1. Okay? Can skip it. I don't expect you to show that step. So you're going to get negative 1 over 4. So you're going to get x is equal to negative 1 plus minus root 71 I all over 4. Okay, x is equal to minus 1 plus minus root 71 over 4. You can leave it in that form. What it means, you can leave it exactly like that. What it means is you've got two answers. The one is negative 1 plus root 71 I over 4. The other one is minus 1 minus root 71 I over 4. Okay, right. You'd always leave those kind of ones in that format. So when do we use a quadratic formula? When factorizing is hard, or when you can't factorize, can be used to find non-real roots, irrational roots, any type of roots actually. Right. So just last question. It comes from exercise 3, page 17. Okay, number L. It says solve for x in the complex numbers, and you've got x plus 2 is equal to 5. Then you obviously won't have to do this one on your own. So if we times this out, we're going to get x squared plus 2x minus 5, Ariana, is equal to 0. Okay, can you factorize that? Well, you can play around with it. You're not going to be able to. So you're going to use a quadratic formula. And the quadratic formula by now, you should be comfortable with. What is it under? Negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So you're going to get x is equal to, well, what's a equal to? Be careful of careless mistakes. A is 1. Okay, what's b? B is 2. What's c? C is negative 5. So there are your three coefficients. A is 1. B is negative. B is equal to 2. Sorry, not negative 2. And c is equal to negative 5. So you plug those in. You're going to get negative b, which is going to be negative 2 plus minus the square root of b squared is going to be 2 squared minus 4 times a is 1 times c is negative 5 all over 2 times 1. Okay, so you end up with x is equal to negative 2 plus minus, here you're going to get minus 4 times minus 5, which is going to be plus 20. Okay, hang on, I've done a mistake here. X squared plus 2 is equal to 5. X squared plus 2x minus 5 is 0. So x is negative b plus minus b squared minus 4 is 2a. Negative b is negative 2 plus minus b squared minus 4 times a is 1. Okay, times c is negative 5. I'm just worried that I'm a 1. Okay, maybe I wrote the question down wrong. Okay, exercise 3, page 17, L, and sorry about the delay, 17, L, x times x plus 2, I'm such a dumbass, x times x plus 2 plus 5 is equal to 0, right? Hopefully you're all squealing at me. So you get x squared plus 2x plus 5, okay, so that's plus 5, apologies, okay, and you end up with, where are we? Okay, so here you're going to get 4 minus 20, which is going to be minus 6. 4 minus 20 is minus 16. So you get minus 2 plus minus 16 over 2. And you're going to get x is equal to minus 2 plus minus, what does it mean? Root 16 times root negative 1. You can skip out steps, over 2. So you're going to get x is equal to minus 2 plus square root of 16 is 4, okay, plus or minus 4i over 2. So there's your answer, minus 2 plus or minus 4i all over 2. You can make that quite a lot prettier, by the way. Okay, remember, if this means, if it's all over 2, it means minus 2 over 2 plus minus 4i over 2. Okay, I would expect you to neaten that up a little bit. And you're going to get x is equal to minus 1 plus minus 4 divided by 2, 2i. So there is your pretty answer. X is equal to minus 1 plus minus 2i. Okay. All right, guys, if you could do exercise 3, page 17, mind-born maths. Okay. And in the calculus and algebra. Thank you very much to our 3 helpers. Ariana, who else was it? Anza and Amelie, much appreciated. Your check is in the post. Arrivederci. Ciao.